Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Brick City Blockade. We're here live. That's right. It's our journey to episode 9, and we are wrapping it up, folks. We are into the sequel trilogy. Back in 2012, Disney purchased the rights to have Star Wars from George Lucas. And I remember specifically in 2012, Sean remembers 2012 when we both graduated from high school. And we learned of that news that Disney was acquiring Star Wars and the franchise itself, and that there would be films coming out. And it was an amazing, amazing day, I think, just for the entire fandom, knowing that George had signed it off and he made his billions, and now they're making even more money in the process. But on that day, moving forward, we came to the stretch known as 2015. December of 2015, and that's what jump started it all with The Force Awakens, guys. Now, I want to pose this first before we get into our and maybe I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I think we should do our top three moments, the three films for the sequel trilogy, and this is going to be a bonus here. I want us to first talk about when we found out that there was going to be more Star Wars films, and what was your opening night experience for The Force Awakens? How did that go down? And I'll start with Andrew on this one.
I was out with my girlfriend at the time, and I got a message on my phone from my brother, a text saying, Lucasfilm bought by Disney, new Star Wars films to be announced. And I'm like, he has to be like ribbing me. He has to be fucking messing with me. Sorry for my language, but
No.
And then I looked up the article and I'm like, holy shit, there's going to be more Star Wars movies. And at that point, because it was 10, 12 years after Revenge of the Sith, which was supposed to be the end of Star Wars then. And opening night, it was the first time I had ever gone opening night to any movie.
Yeah.
It was kind of surreal, and I'll never forget it. I was just talking with people that were Star Wars fans, and pretty sure they're still Star Wars fans, but even if they're not, it was just a different feel. And the Lucasfilm logo comes on, and then a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I don't get teary-eyed or anything during movies very often, unless it was a really good movie.
Yeah.
As soon as the Star Wars logo came on, I couldn't help it. I got teary-eyed because I never thought I would see another Star Wars movie in theaters.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the same for Rise of Skywalker, but it's going to be more sad.
I agree.
Because, yes, there's going to be more Star Wars movies, but nothing like this. Right. Yes, there might still be the opening crawl, but it won't have the same feel as the Skywalker saga.
Right. What about you, Sean?
I think the first time I heard about the deal, I think we were both in school during that time.
Yeah, we were both in school at that time, yeah.
Was it after graduation or before? I can't remember.
It was just before. It was actually just before. It was like 2 weeks before we graduated from high school, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I was studying for finals. I think we both, Robin, we were both studying for finals.
Yeah.
And I think we both texted each other. I think you texted me.
Yeah, I texted you.
You texted me saying, "Oh, look, we're gonna get new Star Wars films." And I was like, "You're joking, right?"
Yeah, he was. You couldn't believe it.
And of course, I was studying for finals. Like, I looked up, like Andrew said, looked up the articles. Like, oh shit, we're actually getting it. And I think that moment, or before, I think you could say your moment soon, but I feel like we're gonna have.
You can say your moment soon.
I didn't mean to be a dick there.
No, that was awesome.
But I think we knew that moment. It's like that we were gonna have more Star Wars films. Like,
yeah,
it was so surreal. And then opening night, we both went, and it was at the time when we first started the podcast.
Yeah,
which was
literally
a big deal for us. And I think we both, or I got teary-eyed a little bit, but not to extent. I see more towards the end than the beginning. I think.
Yeah.
I think towards the end, just because I felt relief that we're getting more films after that,
yeah.
and I think also it was my first time going to see the opening night too. Yeah. I think I think
you specifically said that too. Yeah, like this was your first opening night experience since Revenge of the Sith, in particular.
I don't think I saw Revenge of the Sith opening night, but I saw opening
weekend.
You
had. Okay. You saw opening
weekend. I saw Revenge of the Sith opening weekend. It's not opening night.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah,
plus, I was in middle school when when Revenge of the Sith came out, so it's like I can't really go to the opening night because back then it was just midnight showings.
Right. It was. I
don't think the Ioka had opening night.
They did. I was there that night. Yeah, I didn't go to school the next day.
Ooh, look at you skipping school, and now you're a teacher skipping school.
Anyway,
big flex question mark.
Yeah, big flex, exactly.
That's 3 question marks.
Many question marks.
Exactly.
No, I mean, I think the one thing about The Force Awakens and opening night in particular, just even the lead up, like in 2012, like Sean said, I think we were both in like a lull period where our fandom, we hadn't really discovered it just yet. I think we were both reading comics at that time. I was really like into Marvel stuff in particular at that time. I was reading Star Wars stuff. Like I in particular, I was going back through my Legends novels that I had on collection. Just kind of reading through like the Darth Bane stuff. It was just more for fun. Just going to Comic-Cons and whatever else, just to kind of have that background knowledge. And then I remember seeing the article. I can't remember it's specific. It was on the Star Wars website when they put it up. That Lucasfilm was purchased by Disney, and that the $4.3 billion deal was about to go through, and George had signed the paperwork. And it's great because they showed his signature on the bottom. They didn't show the entire contract, but they just showed a picture of the signature at the bottom, and then of course Bob Iger's signature right next to it, which was really, really cool. And I think the one exciting thing for me from that signing was knowing that Kathleen and Dave was coming over with it, because being a big fan of the Clone Wars in particular, much like you, Sean, and Andrew, just seeing that those names that I had seen in the crawl after the Clone Wars were going to be a part of the Lucasfilm, that Kathleen would be leading Lucasfilm in particular, was really great.
That was essentially the only thing that we had for TV. Or for visual effects or visuals for Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah. And I remember that after that moment, it was just like, oh crap. All right. So we're getting movies. When are we going to hear about these things? And then, of course, 2015 rolls around. Force Awakens comes out, and I was absolutely obsessed. I was buying merch left and right for Force Awakens. It was like I was reliving my childhood. It really was. With Force Friday, it was amazing. I still have a lot of my original Force Friday things. The admission ticket to get into Force Friday at Toys R Us, I still have those little tickets that they handed out to you so you could wait in line. And then if you didn't have a ticket, you had to come back in the morning, is how they ran it at the one over here in Newington, New Hampshire. So I remember being in line for that, and then finally seeing the film. It's not only, and you, all the listeners out there will know this, it's not just what jump-started Brick City Blockade in particular. It was the conversations that The Force Awakens brought, being their opening night, the experience of it. That is why I texted Sean after and said, we've been talking so much about this film. Let's just put a microphone out and let's just share that experience with everybody out there. And I mean, that's how that was birthed. That's how that's how Brick City Blockade, it sounds like a lot of hoopla. But So,
Hoopla.
basically, Brick City Blockade is the Krusty Krab training video in many different ways.
It really is.
And the Force Awakens is the Krabby Patty when it comes to that training video.
Yeah.
La, 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 la,
Or
la,
the
la, la.
secret formula.
The secret formula?
Yeah.
Do you want me to give you the sappy answer, or do you want me to give you the realistic answer?
Yes.
Oh, just yes? Okay, so you get
Yes.
both. Sappy answer was Sean saying yes to doing this podcast and having him jump on board and be able to be my co-host on it and really help me lead the charge on this thing. And then the real answer is me actually having the availability to get into that basement where we did the podcast and have to move workout equipment aside so that we could actually record a fucking podcast. That's the reality of that.
Well,
My-
I meant,
my
is it the
seat
Krabby
was a
Patty
bench
or is it the
press.
secret formula?
The secret formula, Andrew, is the pain and sweat that Sean and I had to go through to move workout equipment in the
Blood,
downstairs
sweat,
area of my
and
apartment.
tears.
Blood, sweat, tears, and occasional push-up.
And
Occasional-
and the force.
And the
I'm
force,
gonna-
yeah, we used the force to do it. Stupid washing machines. Anyway,
There's that one moment in the first
you
episode where
poor people.
hey, you know what? Every basement podcast has to start somewhere.
It's true. But think this way: if the Force Awakens never happened,
Brick
We
City
prob-
wouldn't have happened.
Brick
It would-
City wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have met.
None of it.
Yeah.
None of it would have happened. So that alone by itself, because we're here in this moment, and we're recording this podcast for you guys right now. That is right there before we even get to our top three for Force Awakens.
honestly, we'd probably
That's
be
it.
doing a sports podcast instead.
We probably would have went down a very different path with it. And, because Sean and my first passion was sports. That was always I was going into sports broadcasting early on. Sean and I connected over sports. So that's always where that stood. And we still do. We still talk about it a lot. And you hear that sometimes. But Force Awakens was the jump start to it all in many different ways. So, Andrew.
Before we get to that, what was your guys' reaction to seeing the first teaser trailer for Force Awakens?
Wow. Tears.
Because
It
I was at work when it was released.
Tears in the Han moment. I mean, the Han moment alone.
No, even before that, where.
Oh yeah, no, but I'm just saying though, like that was the one that did it for me. But yeah, the original teaser
Mhm.
where you just see Finn standing there.
Where you see Finn
Yeah,
cut to Rey's speeder, Kylo Ren, and then
Just the
Millennium
sounds.
Falcon. Mhm.
yeah, him in the snow
the-
and everything.
It literally took my breath away when I
Me
saw
too.
it the first time.
Just seeing the
was-
Falcon again is what took my breath away.
Yes, I agree. And then we
To
get the Han
To the
scene.
Star Wars music too.
Yes,
That made it even better.
I think
So
the Star Wars music hit me the most when I heard it.
yeah, I agree with you, Sean. I do.
Because that's what everyone thinks of Star Wars usually. Dun, 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 dun.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The
you definitely
beginning.
just the music. Yeah.
Just the main title.
Yeah, so very true. And I think, a lot of the things that we can connect on when it comes to that is, being able to see those trailers, those teasers, being there opening night, seeing this film, and then the conversations that came after. I can't even tell you, like when Sean and I were first really moving with the podcast and starting to share out. I mean, Facebook alone, you want to talk about the amount of Star Wars groups that are available on Facebook right now for people to join and to get started. I remember joining. In particular, was the Collider Jedi Council.
Mhm.
Their feed, which is actually many months later, where I met Scott Inchin, and we connected through chatting through the Collider Jedi Council page, which is why I invited him on a guest on Talking Star Wars. And that's where that connection happened, was just through the Facebook groups. And I remember sitting there, and Scott sent me a request to join this Star Wars group and then this Star Wars group. So I got to give Scott a lot of credit for opening me up to the Star Wars groups on Facebook. And I remember watching just the numbers of them growing. The 501st, all of the cosplay groups that started erupting after that. It's like, finally, we have something that we can talk about and get people involved with again. I want to say between the release of Force Awakens itself and probably March of 2016, there at least had to have been 5 or 6,000 Facebook groups for Star Wars launched within that period of time, and I was probably part of at least 200 of them, which was absolutely fantastic.
I think I might have found you in one of those groups.
I think you did.
I requested you there.
Yeah,
but we didn't really start talking until The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I want to say it was just before The Last Jedi came out that we really started talking about it.
And then I'm like, hey, let's do Knights of the Order.
Knights of the Order, yeah.
And then look at us now. You can't get rid of me.
Can't get rid of them. You can't get rid
of
them.
Now that we're men.
What?
Now that we're men.
Now that we're men.
Yeah.
We got facial hairs.
Ever since then.
The way.
This is the way, folks. This is the way. So, Andrew, I'm not going to have you start this one off. I'm going to have Sean. You like that little twist?
I'm okay with that.
I'm going to have Sean start off the Force Awakens top 3 for you. What are your big 3 takeaways from your rewatch of Force Awakens, now being able to relive that moment again?
Well, since we're doing top 3, because I had like top 7 in my mind, since we're changing it up.
Just your top 3 there, big man. Just your top 3.
Yes. My number 3 probably has to be the first time we see Rey, because I think it's so for her, it's so iconic for the viewers watching it, because it's the first female lead in the Star Wars film that we had, and it's I think it's very important to see her as a lead, especially for the younger audience, especially young girls seeing it. It was 100%. Like the same thing when Leia came out. The first seeing Leia come in 1977 is the same reaction, but is I think it was a little different this time, of course, because Rey's the lead, and I think that's a huge part of what Star Wars is, because it's not just about male or female. It's about different people. It's just different people of color, races,
presentation,
gender. Yeah. My number 2 probably has to be probably the scene when we see Leia and Han the first time together, when Leia comes out off the ship and sees Han
after the attack on Takodana, yeah.
And they're just standing. There's like that moment alone is
the music.
So iconic. I think it was a little bit. That teared me up when I was watching that, especially seeing them together, and more than the first time we see Han with the Millennium Falcon. And I think it's so great to see what I think J.J. Abrams did, bringing all the iconic characters back from the original to the first one, and coming to the Rise of Skywalker. And I think he does such a great job doing that.
He does.
And for my number 1, probably has to be, I think, just the opening crawl itself. Because it's
a good point, yeah.
Because I think it just holds a special place in my heart. Just the first time we see the movie together and as a podcast, and I think it's just so great.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Andrew?
It's one of the better crawls, because most of the time I'm not really reading the crawl for the other movies, but for Force Awakens, it was really the one that I paid attention to.
Stood out.
Because because the first line is Luke Skywalker has vanished. So it's like, oh, so what's the story? And pretty much in that crawl, it gives you kind of a backstory of what's been going on. Yeah. And going back to one of Sean's points with being introduced to Rey, for the first, what would you say, her introduction is about 5-10 minutes or so?
A solid 5 to 10 minutes.
From the Star Destroyer to her speeder to The junkyard is probably about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, about 10 to 12 minutes, yeah.
In that amount of time, there's no dialogue.
Yes, that's such a good point.
And
There really isn't.
That says a lot. If you can get a character that interesting,
well, BB-8
I'll get into
does dialogue.
BB-8's not there when she's first introduced.
That's true. That's not till a little bit after.
Not until she's at her AT-AT house.
Okay, so.
But just no dialogue or anything, and it shows how interesting of a character she is. And I'll get more into comparing a certain other character with another character a little later that I'll get hate on.
Okay. What's your number 2?
2, it would have to be Han and Chewie entering the Falcon again.
We're home.
As much as I'm not a Han Solo fan, and I voiced my opinion on it.
Very much so.
Because I said to you, I didn't cry when Han Solo died. I laughed.
You sick bastard, you.
Well, he got what was coming. He was a bad dad. He got what was coming to him.
Anyway,
Greedo's up in heaven laughing at him.
Yep.
McClunky.
And Han Solo's in hell. Because he said, because he said in Empire Strikes Back, then I'll see you in hell.
Oh, so technically, yes. Okay, fine. I'll let that one go. Yes,
and
I'll let that one go.
Number 1 for me, anything with Kylo Ren.
Oh, I like that. That's a good answer.
Kylo Ren, if we're just comparing The Force Awakens and A New Hope, Kylo Ren to Darth Vader, Kylo Ren is the more interesting character.
Gotcha.
We learn more about Kylo Ren in this one movie than we did of Darth Vader in A New Hope.
It's a good point.
And it's the first movie where we see a dark side user trying to resist the pull of the light side. And I have liked Kylo's arc throughout this entire trilogy. He is one of the best characters that they've come up with for this trilogy.
Yeah. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one. Like, Kylo Ren alone has just been probably, I would say, one of the best characters out of this, but also probably, I'll be curious to hear what you have to say on this one, Sean, but he has to be probably one of the more well-developed of all of them, next to probably Rey.
I agree.
Which is done on purpose, of course, but I feel like there's still so much mystery with both of these characters, but Kylo Ren's lineage is what pulls him in a direction where fans can look at it and say, oh crap, he's got a little bit of Solo and he's got a little bit of Skywalker in him. There's going to have to be some conflicting stuff even deeper than Rey herself that's going to be happening with this character. And I think he's probably one of the more fascinating characters to come out of the sequel trilogy, because we've never really seen somebody who is fighting against what he's been told he has to be. You know what I mean? I feel like Kylo was always fighting against, you have to be like your mother. You have to be like Luke. You have to be like a Skywalker. You have to be like your dad. You got to be courageous. You got to be out there fighting, fighting your way through the galaxy. And he simply was like, you know what? I got to be me. And he's so conflicted in that way. And I think that that's been the beauty of that character. What do you think, Sean?
I'm not a huge Kylo Ren fan.
I know you're not.
I mean, he's a different character, but I think he's poorly executed. I think, in my opinion,
I can understand that.
I think Adam Driver is a great actor. He does not fit the role of Kylo Ren. I think that's the reason why. I think Adam Driver is one of the better actors I've seen in the Star Wars trilogy. I mean, other than Natalie Portman. That's why I love Natalie Portman. I mean, Padme, but she's poorly executed. Like Natalie Portman is a fantastic actress.
I can understand that.
Huh. That is a real interesting perspective.
But I still love Kylo Ren. He's a cool character, all, but just poorly executed in my opinion. I hope in this Rise of Skywalker it changed in my opinion to it, and I hope it will.
That's fascinating. I'd never heard your perspective on Kylo Ren like that, and that's interesting that you bring that up, because it's been, and I'm going to say this just outside of Star Wars itself, but you look at some of the more recent roles that Adam Driver has been picking up in, is like he is a little bit separating himself from Star Wars. He's trying to show that he's got more of an acting career. Daisy Ridley, that's why she said after 9, you know what, I really don't think I'm going to get back into it for a while, because she, they have another career, and I think that's always been the stigma of Star Wars too, is that when you do a Star Wars, when you do a Star War,
they don't want to be trapped.
They don't want to be trapped in it.
They don't want to be trapped the way Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher were trapped.
Right.
Harrison Ford got lucky with Indiana Jones. That's my opinion. That's really my opinion. If he didn't get Indiana Jones, he would be trapped with Han Solo.
And I don't think Adam Driver will be trapped.
No, I don't think so either.
I think because Adam Driver, he's been picking some of these great movies. Black Klansman,
oh, so good.
Logan Lucky, which is totally different of what he does.
Totally different. Totally
and
different.
He can do comedy because it's SNL. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how that all plays out, and I think probably my number 3 moment in The Force Awakens alone itself. I'm gonna have to go with Maz's castle itself. I was always waiting for a cantina type scene like we saw in particular in A New Hope, going to Mos Eisley Cantina and seeing all the creatures. I'm such a big creatures person and special effects. Our good friend Details, of course, who's been on the podcast many, many times and is a friend of the podcast itself, had worked on Force Awakens. He worked on Rogue One in the creatures department. He was performance capture, and he was, on set playing characters in The Force Awakens. And one of the things he told me was like, that scene alone took so many takes to do because you had so many people in that room. You had to make sure everything was lined up properly. Did you get the shots? The music when you walk in. I mean, Lin-Manuel from Hamilton went in and wrote the reggae type theme for when you go into Maz's castle. It was really cool, and it still sticks out to me. Ooh doogie boogie, ooh movie. That whole song is just so cool. And number 3 for me is Maz's castle. Number 2. And is the one that always stands out to me, is Rey's visions that she has when she touches the lightsaber. It's probably one of the more eerie scenes that I've seen in Star Wars. It's different because we get flashbacks. We get calls to the future, I feel, at different times as well. And the voices that are used. We hear Obi-Wan's voice.
Voices this time.
Yeah.
It's one of those scenes that I continually go back and listen to, and I still think to this day there's a moment where you do hear Palpatine's cackle just a tiny bit.
I think I heard it. I think I heard Obi-Wan say when he says to Luke in Empire, this is when you'll be tempted by the dark side.
Yes.
I think I heard a little bit of that line.
Yes, there's so much of that. There's so many different things. That is the one. That's why, and I'll say this to folks, if you're wondering why this crazy motherfucker right here went back to the movie theater 15 times to see the movie, I literally paid matinee on the weekends to go back and watch that scene till it came out on DVD because I wanted to examine it more and more. I think JJ, that is probably, and I'm probably taking a risk saying this, no matter what The Rise of Skywalker gives us, and I don't know what Palpatine's going to give us, that is the one scene in the sequel trilogy up to this point that I think will always stick and be so iconic because it's something new, it's something different, and it's something that kicks off the pathway to Rey. And she denies it at first, but she knows that it's the only way she's got to go. So anything that involves the Force and shows us a different aspects of the past and the future is always welcome. Always welcome in Star Wars.
I agree completely.
Yeah, same here.
So then heading into my number one moment in The Force Awakens. And this one, I had to really think about this one because I had a lot of choices for the top one. I always thought that Kylo Ren and Rey facing each other when he's trying to get information out of her was always so fascinating. The way that she was able to, out of nowhere, just basically look at him and say, you know, you'll never be as strong. You're worried that you're worried that you'll never be as strong as Darth Vader. It's like, where did she pull that one from? Holy shit! Like, she just was able to read him like a book in that moment. But I'm gonna say, I think it's the story progression of FN 2187 that it really sticks out to me the most in The Force Awakens. This is the first time, folks, that in Star Wars we get into the mind and we see the life of a stormtrooper. This is the first time that we see the struggles and the reality, and we get it in the canon about why they're trained. You know, these are humans that are pulled away from their parents, you know, by the First Order, out of not even the parents' choice, but out of their will to go and do this work for the First Order. And Finn goes against that. He goes against the grain. And one of the best things I think with Star Wars is that it shows how to go against the grain, but to do it in a way that impacts others for a positive. And FN 2187 or Finn, I love that whole scene with Poe, and he's trying to figure out a name for him, and their relationship alone. You know, I think that really getting into the mind of somebody who's involved with the First Order of the Empire has always been the most fascinating piece for me. You always want to know what's going on the other side. And to have a stormtrooper defect and to go to the other side and do what's right for the galaxy is exactly what we need in this world today. That reality that the times are changing and that we have to make an impact in every way possible to make things better. And that's what that character does. So for me, bravo to John Boyega and to the character of FN 2187, because it really makes The Force Awakens The Force Awakens.
I can agree with that. We'll get into some of my issues with The Last Jedi with the character of Finn itself. But I really do like Finn's character. I am happy to see in Rise of Skywalker, it does seem like he's in a more confident role, and he knows he knows where he should be.
Yeah, he does.
I'll get more into my stuff with The Last Jedi when we record it, but
I think I know where you're going with it as well. And I'll say it here, and then I'll have you kind of, of course, when we record it, say it more. But I think I know where you're going with it, and I have to wholeheartedly agree with you with it too. Is like Force Awakens gives him so much gravitas in terms of a character, and gives him so much purpose and power that by the time we get to that next episode, we look at it and we're like, this is not the character that we saw in the first one.
Okay, I'll get into it now.
Yeah, you might as well, because it's so important to have this conversation even here.
It's as if the character took 2 steps forward in The Force Awakens, and The Last Jedi took like 5 steps back.
I agree.
And it didn't make sense. Okay, Finn went up and fought Kylo Ren on his own.
Yeah.
It showed he was brave. Why a few hours later would he be like, we have to run away from the First Order again? It doesn't make sense. And I get it. I get what Rian Johnson was kind of doing.
Yeah, of course.
But that's one of the issues I have with The Last Jedi. There's not many, but there's not many issues I have with The Last Jedi, but that's one of the big ones that I have an issue with. I'll get more into it.
Yeah, of course.
When we review Last Jedi, but I wanted to kind of give an idea.
Yeah, a little teaser at it. Little teaser at it, because you do look at.
You guys have.
Yeah, no, what are you gonna say?
issues from Force Awakens? Just curious. I mean, I think it's important to throw some issues.
Yeah, I think it's like the make it or break
it. The Force Awakens is my favorite movie in the sequel trilogy. I have no issues with it.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp as you on it. I think it's exactly what this story needed, and it's really one of those films that that JJ came in. He knows how to lead off a film, and everybody says he doesn't know how to end a film. We're gonna find that out on Thursday.
He's gonna end it perfectly.
He's gonna end it very well. I have a feeling, and if anything, JJ knows what to do. It's how to reboot something and give it its original feel.
Look at Star Trek.
That's what we did. Yeah, look at Star Trek. Exactly.
I wasn't really a big Star Trek fan, but I did like the movies that he did for Star Trek.
Which ones did he do? I haven't watched the Star Trek.
He did the first one, Into Darkness. And
Into Darkness.
Is that the one with Zoe Sandola?
I think so. I know Benedict Cumberbatch was in the second one.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Did he do the last one, or was he just a producer?
Producer.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't lead.
Because he was doing Force Awakens when.
Yes.
That one,
yeah,
right?
yeah. He had signed the contract for Force Awakens at that point. So
if you're saying he can't finish anything, he was kind of a little busy.
Yeah, that's right.
On that end.
That's right. So
Well, any movie is not really finished.
True. Well,
right.
Lord of the Rings is finished.
All right. Yeah, I guess so. I guess so.
Until
All right,
the
Sean.
Amazon series comes out, but
Kick it off with your make it or break it. What is the Rise of Skywalker got to make or break aspects from the Force Awakens? Because this is interesting because it's JJ that led this thing off, and now he's got to close it out. So, what for you is going to make the right? Which for you is see? This is podcasting. This is podcasting. Like this is pod racing. Yeah. This is podcasting.
Wait, for me, right?
Yes, for you. What's going to make?
I didn't hear you before. To make it. I would love to see. I know we're seeing Rey with seeing her dark side, but I want to see her explore more on the dark side, and we didn't really see that in Force Awakens. We saw it a little bit in the Last Jedi. We'll talk about next episode, but I really want her to explore deeply with the Sith, the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be really cool.
I think we'll get something on the lines of that.
Yeah, probably.
For break it, I think. Because it's hard because Force Awakens didn't have much issues, but I think breaking. Come back to me for break it. Actually.
Okay, Andrew. Make it or break it. What's gonna do it for you?
Make it.
It's hard because it is JJ, and there's an expected style from him.
Okay, make it if they follow up on the vision that Rey has.
Oh, that's a good one.
If they say it's like something that Palpatine manipulated into her and seeing, or something like that, that would be really cool. Break it. If they don't have Kylo Ren as Rey's equal.
Yeah.
Kylo Ren, yes, he was kind of on par with Rey in The Last Jedi, but kind of not at the same time. He is Supreme Leader. He did something that Darth Vader was never able to do. He overthrew his master and took his place.
Yeah.
And I want to see Kylo Ren just an unstoppable beast. And I want Rey is going to be stronger, but I want Kylo Ren to be her equal.
Yeah.
And if they make him kind of like not, that'll kind of break it for me. If they still have him portrayed as kind of weak, then that'll kind of be like, they should have done that better.
That would be actually my breakage as well, but more of don't I really don't want Kylo Ren to have a redemption in movie.
I'm fine if Kylo doesn't have a redemption.
Yeah.
But like you said, I don't want him to be weak either. I want him to be stronger than what Vader was. He hasn't proved that yet.
I want him to prove Ray Ron that he's stronger than Darth Vader.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're in the same boat, technically. But break it. Robin?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I don't even have a break it because it is J.J. Abrams. And there's an expected way that he's going to be able to handle the Rise of Skywalker. I'm in the same boat as Andrew on this one. I think that for this film to make it, you have to be able to take what Rey saw in The Force Awakens, and you got to take that to the next level. You got to be able to show us, okay, her being left on Jakku. What's the meaning behind that? The Knights of Ren standing before, Rey in the rain. That's not something that necessarily happened in the past. That could have been something that happened in the future. We know we're seeing the Knights of Ren in this. So where's that connection? And then, of course, I think the big one is when Rey is standing in the forest. We obviously do see that scene in The Force Awakens where Kylo approaches her. But it's the voice that calls to her in that moment and says, Rey? And it's Ben Kenobi's voice. And I think that alone, just why that voice is placed in that moment, has a lot of meaning to it. And for this film to make it, you've got to be able to take what you mastered in your first film, in the first of this sequel trilogy, and you got to take all aspects of that storytelling and wrap it up in a way so that when we walk out of that theater, we say, all right, that made sense why he did it. That makes sense. Or at least leave it on another cliffhanger where it's going to have more questions for us to answer. That's the other aspect of it.
I think it will kind of show the full vision. I think Palpatine will show her like the full vision, where her parents came from, why she was left on Jakku. I think every question we've had, I think, is going to be answered in this movie.
That's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy that The Force Awakens comes out and that happens.
I think we're gonna have a couple of visions and it's gonna be answered everything that she wants.
It would be cool. Rey has a vision and Kylo has a vision.
Yeah, we don't see Kylo's vision.
And their visions collide.
That would be interesting. Because their minds are linked.
They are linked. That's something that Snoke did.
Like Skype.
Kind of like us right now. Interesting. Yep. Very, very interesting ideas here, folks. And again, like Andrew said in our recap of Return of the Jedi, guys, we are literally a little bit more than 48 hours away from going to see The Rise of Skywalker. It's going to be an amazing time, and I ask everybody, of course, if you're on social media blackout, you're not missing out on much. No, I'm kidding. You're gonna miss out on a shit ton of stuff. But we'll be doing our best to post up things over on the YouTube page, so you know what you're watching up to that point is it's going to be spoiler free before we head into the theater. So please follow everything we're going to be doing over here on the YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to the Brick City Blockade over here, and then check us out on iTunes and Spotify for the audio versions of our Journey to Episode 9 podcast. This has been so much fun in the process. We have one more to go up into the Rise of Skywalker. Like Andrew says, this thing has been going by so fast, but you all get to
we have two. We're gonna have the
Rise of Skywalker by itself. Oof. Guys, that's like the next 100 episodes right there. It's just going to be on that. Yeah. So think about Sean, think about it. Think about how many episodes after The Force Awakens we did just on what happened in The Force Awakens.
On the that's like about 10, 15.
A solid, just regular podcast, 1 hour episodes about it. So you're talking about 15 hours of conversation.
It's going to be fun. And I honestly think doing this recap, it made the last week go by a lot faster.
So much faster.
It did.
So much faster. We had so much free time. we were able to do this. We were able to make this possible, guys. All for you out there, the fandom itself.
This is our Christmas present to you guys.
Yes, but I do want to say, this isn't the end of our recap series. There's going to be more.
No, we have Mandalorian. We have the Clone Wars. We have Obi-Wan. We got a lot of stuff coming in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, movie-wise.
Movie-wise.
Yeah.
I think January 7th. What movie comes out on DVD/Blu-ray that day?
Ooh.
What movie comes out?
Joker.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think we should do a recap of Joker. Because I want to... Because we've talked about it, but I really want to get you guys' in-depth thoughts on Joker.
So we will be expanding our boundaries in terms of the reviews that we do. I like that idea. I think the Patreon people would love to hear that. I think the people over on our iTunes feed would love to hear that as well.
And YouTube. Don't forget YouTube.
And YouTube, of course.
Let us know if any other movies that you guys want us to review.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even if they're bad movies, we'll do it.
Oh, yeah. We'll go MST3K style.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
We've come to that time of the show here. So we've come to that time of the show.
Okay, hold on.
No. We've come to that time of the show where it's a little thing and then his screen freezes.
Do the quickening or Mortal Kombat Annihilation for us to review.
Say it again. I couldn't hear you. You got cut off.
Mortal Kombat, Highlander 2, The Quickening, or Mortal Kombat Annihilation that we would have to review.
So, Sean, tell the good people where they can find you.
Annihilation.
Oh, don't answer the question. Don't feed into. Oh.
No, Annihilation. The one with Natalie Portman movie. What are you talking about? We're reviewing that.
Andrew's sitting there like, good. Make Robin frustrated.
For The Last Jedi, I'll wear a hoodie the entire time.
Oh, goodness. No, but I mean it, Sean. Where can the good people find you across social media?
I mean it. You guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram. It's Zone Z. Music at Bandcamp, SoundCloud, and Facebook.
Sweet. How about you, Mr. Gerrish, who likes to pick my buttons?
You love it when I push your buttons.
Oh, I totally do.
This week you cannot find me on social media. I am darked. You can follow me. You can message me. I will not respond to you.
Because you're darked.
That is just so welcoming. I love that.
There's a lot of jerks out there. I'm sorry.
I don't blame you on that one.
Yeah.
I don't blame you on that one. Very simple for me. You guys can follow me over on Twitter at Mr. Vogt Tweets. Until tomorrow, then I'm going to go on my blackout streak until the weekend, most likely. Once most people have seen it, we'll see what happens at that point. Of course, Brick City Blockade at www.brickcityblockade.com. Keep your eyes out, too, as well, people, for some Starlight Children's Foundation stuff. Working on a couple different things with them for the new year. New Year's Eve, we may be running a little something to help them out heading into 2020. And, of course, our iTunes, Spotify feed, Words of the Wills with Mr. Gerrish itself on Wednesdays. We're looking forward to that kicking off, especially a little bit more in 2020 because we're going to have so much more to talk about when that time comes around. And then, of course,
both the Facebook Live version and the audio version.
Yeah,
with the three of us. I do like the format of the three of us doing the audio Words of the Wills.
Works very well.
Yeah.
Works very well.
And there can be more guests.
I'm looking forward to that in 2020.
Like that, so.
Yeah, having guests on from the Star Wars universe and from the movie world itself. We're looking forward to that in 2020 as well. So please make sure to subscribe here on iTunes. Do all those amazing things and subscribe over here on YouTube as well. All those great formats. So as we always say here on the podcast, and it's not a podcast episode until we do it, folks. Hey, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Always.
Santa Claus.
All right.